Alright guys, going to cover two topics today. First one is where I've been, and then the second one is would I still recommend living in Spain full time. For me, where I've been, the reality is I've been busy with work, and I've also just finished a level 7 strategic leadership course at a master's degree level. And I'm currently looking at doing an MBA September, still thinking about it. So I've been sort of preoccupied, and I've been looking at other stuff I get involved in. So I'm part of a better information management group around how to process and manage information for buildings. I know some of you are already yawning. I've also been asked to do something for the British Standards Institute relating to standardisation of documents as well. So I'm looking at that as well. And then we had Digital Construction Week, where I was talking in London about asset management. So I've been quite busy, so that's where I have been. Moving on, so that's where I've been. That's why I really haven't had much time for most stuff. I'll add into that, you might see my face a little bit thinner. I was going to the gym every day. I'm going to be digging my treadmill out in a minute because I've got to start getting back to it. Because I've got into that holiday rut, where you're just like chilling out, relaxing. It's too hot, so I've got to get motivated and start working out again here in Spain. So the UK is not a problem. Got the gym already set up. Anyway, moving on. Been here about 10 years in Spain. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. About life in Spain. I've seen the negatives here, and then what I sometimes do is do a comparison to other places I've been in the world. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. Some people whinge about the Spanish police. I've never had an issue with them. The worst I had was probably trying to get them to deal with my immigration paperwork, because they did act as if they just didn't want to do it. It wasn't a case of, it was like as if you're putting them out. But when it's come to even being pulled over, most of the time they're not bothered. They see the kids in the car, they just go, "Oh, go on, we're not looking for you." I don't really find the Spanish police a problem. I don't find... because we got involved in a couple of incidents here relating to other people, and their response times are not only instant almost, but they don't come down in ones. You've got about 6 to 8 people turn up to deal with something. So I find the Spanish police good. Where we live, I find a lot of the problems I see in UK aren't here. And I get this is a bit of a tourist bubble here, and I do get that when you go out the door at 10 o'clock at night, it's mainly Spaniards with their young grandkids or whatever, because maybe the parents are still at work, in a sense not here. But you have this environment where it's safe. You don't feel any risks in this area. Don't get me wrong, market day there is pickpockets, but beyond that, don't really see too much. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people that prey on the tourists, and you can look it up online and get a bit of an idea of the sort of stuff that goes on. The same as the lovely sea allows things to come in without being properly vetted, or would not get through vetting. So there is issues like that, but not really stuff that impacts. That's the reality of it for us. So the average age here is about 68. I find getting stuff done on the house isn't difficult, and you can find different levels and skill sets of people. I have the same as I was having in the Philippines. You've got to work your way through a few people to get the right ones. Now that the main construction's been done, I'm doing bits of plumbing and stuff myself at the minute. But I do find there's a lot of stuff available. You do have to maintain standards though, because I do find that if people can get away with stuff, they'll try it if they can. But I'm used to that for the Philippines, so don't worry about it. Like, it's probably the same in the UK, because to be fair, in the UK I just do everything myself. Recently there was a problem around the chimney where the plastering that had been badly repaired before and it got water damage. I just cut it all out and did it myself and reskinned it, because I just thought, I don't really want people in my room when I'm away. Someone goes missing, they were going to deny it or not. I just don't want to have a hassle. It's easier working from home that week. You know, do a bit of work, have a break for 10 minutes, skim, okay, back to work, and just get it done. So for me, I find that you've got access to a lot of tradespeople, but you've also got access to a lot of tutorials, in the sense of tutors. So my son has karate, Spanish, because I'm not sure which Spanish he's doing, because he's fluent in Spanish anyway. It must be another dialect or whatever. In fact, I know it is, because his teacher's from Granada. So the point being, his teacher at school's not very good, and there's actually a petition to have the teacher sacked. But moving on from that, so he has a Spanish tutor, piano tutor, and a maths tutor. I think that's it at the minute. But if you wanted your kids to learn Russian, musical instruments, water skiing, scuba diving, so many things here. It's all on the doorstep and it's not excessively expensive. I also find for the kids, they get a lot more excursions. So they go out a lot more than I would find kids do in the UK, because you find a lot of schools will just go, oh, it's too much hassle with the insurance, so they just don't do it. But those things are important to kids. It's a bit like when I put Ubbi on the ski trip. He wasn't really that bothered about going. In fact, he didn't want to go. But I remember when I was a kid, you've got to push your kids into those, because those are the ones that stay with you. Those memories of doing that stuff. When you're younger, you go, oh yeah, I remember when we did this. And you've got to have that sort of push for your kids. You get them into stuff when they go, oh, I don't ever want to do it. Yeah, you do. And he loved it. He loved skiing. You know, he's quite happy to go back again now. But the reason I can afford for the kids to do a lot of this stuff is the cost of living here is cheaper. My wife and 2 kids cost less than I cost on my own in the UK, because I find in the UK a lot of the stuff is inflated price wise. And don't get me wrong, here in Spain, if you want alcohol, it's cheap. If you want steak, I find it reasonably cheap. If you want vegetables, they are cheap. If you want fish, it's cheap. But it's also all fresh. Just here where I am, the fishmonger Jesus, or Jesus as we say in the UK, the fishmonger, the fish comes from Santa Pola. Santa Pola is like 2 towns down. The fishing fleet is on the coast, so you can get really fresh fish. The markets here, there's markets in different days in different towns. So when I say different towns, it's like ours here is on a Wednesday. I think Guadalmar's is a Friday, somebody will know. Torrevieja has one as well. So the point being is getting fresh vegetables on your doorstep. The greengrocer here, Elvira, the produce they sell, the majority of it comes from their farm. Our neighbour next door here has a farm, so when they come and visit, they bring us oranges, and we get other people do the same, you know, because people go up to a farm and a lot of the oranges don't get picked for some reason. I assume it's because minimum wage makes sure that it's not worth picking them. So people will fill bags of it and just bring it and knock your door, and you open the door and there's like 2 carrier bags of oranges. It gives you fresh orange juice. Don't really see that much in the UK. Also, the neighbours, not just here, but when we're at the other property, you get a knock on the door and there's little plates of food, because next door, Pepe is and was a chef, and Madalena is Cuban, so we get a lot of stuff for Cuban food, a lot of Spanish food, mix of Belgian food in there as well. And my wife does whatever we're having, which could be like a Sunday roast today, and she gives something to next door, or it could be she's doing something Asian style, and they'll get like a Filipino or a Chinese, a dim sum or whatever. So there's a big community spirit going on. And then you look at things like the basics on the cost of living. The council tax in the UK is horrendous. Spain, not so much. In fact, I don't even know what it is. It's that minimum here. I don't even think about it. It's in the hundreds, not the thousands. And the road here is new. They put a public toilet there. One of those automated ones, we press the buttons. Just on the park. They renovated the park. Redid the drainage. The new boardwalk. The apartments are regularly being renovated. So, for example, they dig out the concrete. I assume they're checking the steels, reseal the steels, redo the render, and they tidy up the buildings. And it's not just like one block. The ones opposite have been done. The ones where we used to live have all been done. There's some being done on the plaza. There is this desire to maintain and improve the environment that we live in. I'm not seeing that much in the UK these days, unfortunately. We keep calling it regeneration and stuff, but if a community loses pride in its own location, it becomes deprived. But anyway, I'm not getting too political on it. I want to keep this on the positive side. So, sports facilities. They've just opened a sports centre literally 2 minutes from my house. I'm not sure they've got gym equipment. I might actually go and have a look today. And outside here, got a basketball court, five-a-side football court, the Spanish bowls. And then you go into Torrebecca and you start getting into, there's a whole area. If you look on the Google Maps, you'll see how much sports facilities are there. It's a very sports, community orientated environment, and I do find the area generally safe. And a reasonable cost of living. I wouldn't say cheap, because I know some of you guys go out to Thailand or wherever, and I believe a lot of people start moving from Thailand over to Vietnam now because the costs are starting to go up. But the reality is, this suits the family, gives the family a foothold in Europe, gives us a base, and for me, I look at it from the bigger perspective that I find the environment here are good for the kids, because myself, it was just me and my wife, I probably had just stayed in the Philippines, or we'd have done something like this and just travelled and done stuff and then headed back to the Philippines. But for the kids, they need more. They need grounded. They need to know there's a home, so they can always come back to. So this is why Spain's Spain. It's home. Downside, at the moment, I outweigh any downsides by what the stuff's going on in the UK anyway, because I look at the fact of where Spain is and to where what's going on there, and I think Spain's in a better position. Spain, because it produces a lot of food, because it has a lot of abilities to generate electricity through solar, it may have a socialist government at the minute, and we are heading to a big push from people like Vox and whatever wanting to take power. But I think their issues are not with the coastal regions, and this is one of the big problems that may occur over the next 20 years, is if things go too far one way, to the point it pushes it too hard, it springs and moves away from the middle to go way over. And I'm hoping we don't go that far. I hope it just sort of deals with people dealing with the main issues that are important to their nations. If that occurs, then I don't think there's any issues for people that are here to retire or live here, because let's face it, we all bring money. You know, the town I'm in had about 200 fishing cottages or small tourist cottages originally. I don't even know how many houses are here now. It's in the thousands. And these are tourist properties. They're of very little value to the Spanish, because the locations don't have any big manufacturing, any big enterprises of any sort. Unless you're selling salt, because there's a salt lake up the road, but beyond that, it doesn't produce much. It doesn't need to, because the tourism is the economy on the coast. And there is no benefit to disrupting that. Now, if you're going fully sustainable and wanting to cut down and everything else, yeah, I get that it would make sense from that. But to give Spaniards all the homes on the coast wouldn't make any sense. It'd be the equivalent of what happened with Spain originally, where what you had is under Franco, you couldn't travel to the cities unless you had like a visa, a resettlement thing. So the idea was he was trying to stop people moving to the cities for a better life. So you had to have like a visa and stuff to move from area to area, and that was to prevent that. But even he conceded that in the end, and that's when they moved into tourism. So the point is, when you look at it historically, it's a bit like Scotland. Scotland probably still has an outgoing population. More people leave. There's probably more Scottish abroad. Well, definitely more Scottish abroad than there is in Scotland. I think originally, I think it was back in the 90s. I believe they were saying there's more Scottish in New York than there is in Scotland. So the point being is, yeah, some places have outwards economies. So my point being is, I get the frustration from the Spanish in the cities, because I have the same frustrations in the UK, that the rents and that have been spiked because of things people are doing, and some of it illegally, some of it legally, but ultimately we're all being used as pawns and getting us to all fight against each other, when in reality it's not us profiteering from it, it's others. But anyway, let's park that. That's just about the logistics of where people are. But would I stay here? Yeah, I love Spain. My biggest headache in Spain that I've had is probably the bank, where it likes to charge for things or does some weird stuff now and again. But beyond that, I find quality of life's good. I find I don't really worry about houses being broken into or stuff going wrong. Don't get me wrong, we have got alarm systems, we have got CCTV and other stuff. But at the same time, we've also got a good community, neighbours, all look out for each other, keep an eye on each other's stuff. The same goes in the Philippines. But the UK, I don't know that many people. Really don't, it's weird. Everyone's so busy and so stuck with their own stuff that they don't take enough time to enjoy life. I find a lot of people need to slow down. And I know I'm just as bad sometimes, that's what I'm saying, that's why I've been busy myself, so I fully get it. But I do recommend for a family life. Spain offers it. If you're coming out here to earn a living, you will find it hard. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It'll be hard. You may have to create a business. You may have to work silly hours. You may have to work in jobs you wouldn't normally want to do. But if you want to make it work, you can make it work. My skills are business orientated, so they're better served in the UK, because I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't think I would get the same opportunities in a large Spanish firm. There's a lot of SMEs here. There's small to medium enterprises. I normally work with big corporates, but I would find it difficult to get promoted in some of these businesses. I believe it's bad enough in the UK. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the UK that makes life difficult. But the opportunities are there to make a living here. And I would say it's easier to make a living here. I would also say doing it the way I do it may be the easiest way for your financial freedom. Limiting your expenditure in the UK, developing whatever you want to do here, so whether it's buy a property that you can rent it out while you're developing things, or you're turning around and coming out here as often as you can because the Ryanair flights are dirt cheap. There is ways to make it work. As I was talking to somebody yesterday, one of the things I focus on is not the problems but the solutions. A lot of people focus on what's wrong. We know the cost of everything's out of control in the UK. We know we've got problems with the government. We know they're trying to get into every crevice to rob us blind. We know the problems around the divisions that are appearing between politicians and what the people want. We know the divisions between two types of groups of people as well are starting to develop. Those are the problems. What we want is the solutions. Part of that is I see work may evolve, may change, may develop. I may need to reskill at some point. But do I sit and wait for AI to take my job? No. I've just finished a degree and about to look at an MBA. I'm also evolving my skill set, getting involved in advisory boards and other things that I can do to evolve. The same is when you want to get something. I have whiteboards. I write stuff on whiteboards, and my whiteboards become a vision. What do you call it? Manifestation. You write them up there. Some of them it's about bullet points of what you need to achieve in the short term, like remember to put your mileage sheet in, something like that. And others could be pay 10,000 off the mortgage and then just mark it on the board and then mark it every time it goes down. The whole point is you can do that stuff the same as you can make bigger stuff, such as want to buy a house in Spain, want to be living in Spain within 10 years, I want to do this, and that becomes your marker. And then from the marker you start breaking down, how do I make it happen? See, over this side, all the stuff that's problems, can't fix any of it. Don't waste your time on it. Don't waste your time on it. Over this side, that's your solutions. So you want to get there within 10 years, how are you going to do it? Don't take this in. This is an excuse why you're not going to do it. This side, how are you going to do it? That's what I'm saying, just throw that. Not interested. That negative stuff's always there. There's always a problem. There's always a problem. You know, I remember when I was a child, I was in Ireland. My dad was there. This was during the Troubles, because after the Paras had an issue there, my father's unit went in there after the Paras. And I remember sitting, playing with their Action Man. Neighbour had I always remember, he had the rubber raft, which was obviously plastic. But we're sitting there with eagle eyes and whatever, and we're at the bottom of the close. So it's like the road sort of carries on with like a terrace, so there's like houses there, we're at the bottom of the close, playing in a puddle with his boat and the action men, looking up through the close, watching people rioting and throwing petrol bombs, and I think it set a truck on fire that day. But the point being is, there has always been problems. That was me when I was very young, looking at that as a kid, and we go through life with problems always going on. I look at the issues of the 80s, and you look at the miners' strikes and the 70s, which, you know, getting, when I was little, I wasn't that little, but I was little enough. Like, you start looking at the issues in the economy then, and then people talking about the living crisis and everything else. I'm going, yeah, I've been in the 70s, been in the 80s. I remember, you know, my parents not having a lot of cash sometimes. But the point being is, we got through it. We got through these moments. We will find a way. So this is a little bit of a different video today, but it was just to sort of say, look, get your vision board, get yourself a little whiteboard, get some of these little sticker things on it, you know, magnets. Cause I'm not going to get the board up because I've got about 5 boards on my right hand side here, similar to that one up there. But I have like these magnets. So what you do with these is, like, for example, I want a Honda Rebel motorcycle next as part of my evolution of spending time on myself for a change. So, and that's not me being negative about my family, by the way. There's more to do with I spend too much time on work. So I'll get a photo of the motorbike and stick it on the board, because it's going to cost me, I think, about 7,000 euros. I've got to do the motorcycle license for it, which is about another 400, I believe. So I already know roughly what I'm going to be spending to get to that point. And the hard bit is getting the time to do the license. That's the main issue I've got. So I write it on my board and I work in that direction. And that's how I recommend doing it. It's the same as this week. We will be heading to Madrid for the Mad Cool Festival. Why? Because my son noticed Weezer was playing. So we're going to see Weezer, Iggy Pop, 9 Inch Nails, Muse, and many other bands. I booked it because I thought, if I don't book it and go, oh, I'll look at it next week, I'll just keep extending it. So that sort of stuff I commit to doing it, and I'll make the money happen. So that's why one of the reasons I'm back, because we're going to the festival. You've got to drive this stuff yourself. I can't do it, no one else can do it. Most people tell you not to do it, to be fair. What you need to do is be the person that actually just goes, you know what, I don't care what anybody's doing, I'm going to make this happen. And that's the only way to make it happen. So would I still recommend living in Spain? Absolutely. If you get here and you hate it, I will tell you the same thing I've been telling people for years about the Philippines or anywhere else in the world. You need to make your own decisions. So I cannot guarantee that you will love it the way I do. All I can guarantee is I love it, and I like living here, the same as I like living in the Philippines, the same as I like living in Hong Kong, spend time in Oman, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. They're all different for different reasons, but at the same time, I enjoy wherever I go. It's a pity that I'm not loving the UK as much as I used to, but hey, we can't have everything. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. You enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm going to get it back out my office because I'm starting to feel the sweat dripping. So it's time to go and have a shower and change the shirt. Thanks for watching.